Light from Lantern presents
Knit a Spell.
I'm Magical Maker Katie Rempe.
And I'm the maker of magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft.
Knit a Spell!
We're
Here
back!
he is!
Yay! How's it
It's
going,
a
Jim?
hot one. It's a hot one today, Katie.
Oh man, I know. We're baking in the sun
Summertime.
here.
Well, I'm excited about today's topic.
Ooh, what is it, Jim?
We are going to talk about altars.
Ooh, yeah.
So
I'm excited.
last time we talked about basically making sacred space, right? And we kind of went through the different levels of space. Like you can make space in your mind. Remember back when we talked about, I think this was quite a number of weeks ago, we talked about spiritual hygiene and like casting a circle and shielding and kind of making your own sort of personal like space, you know,
Right.
in your mind and in your imagination and like your energetic space. And then at the last episode, we talked about making a physical space, right? And so we did mention altars, and then we said, okay, then you're going to upgrade to like a closet, and then maybe a room, right? And we talked about the craft room or the craft closet, the craft cabinet, the
Right.
craft shelf, all those, the craft bag, right?
Yep.
So today we're going to focus on something that's really the focus of magic anyway, which is the altar.
Ooh, wonderful.
And
this is like the magician's space, right?
Yeah. And when I think about an altar, I think about, and what I, like I just said, it's really that focus. It's the place where the imaginative focus of my spiritual work. So it often is a place that carries or holds the symbolism for what it is that represents the work that I'm doing, right? An altar would be a place of inspiration. It would be a place of focus. It could be a place where I'm actually doing the work that I'm maybe going to do, right? And there's a bunch of stuff that might be on my altar, but I want to stop right there before I get into like what might be on the altar and sort of make the comparison between what would be what would be the equivalent in the knitting, crochet, weaving, spinning, crafting world.
Gosh, probably like the work table, like the craft table, or maybe even like the knitting circle table. You know, if depending on what you're doing, if it's a more singular work, I'm probably gonna sit at like the table, it's my workspace, within my craft room, if you will. So surrounded by the things that go with what I'm actively working on, usually on the work surface. So for me, that it would probably be like the craft table.
Yeah, so like a workbench or a craft table for sure, right? That's the focus of where you're doing things, right? That's the place where the action's happening. Yeah.
Yep.
I think about that a lot. Like that's kind of what an altar would be. Some altars, there's a couple different types of altars. There's certainly a working altar. A working altar is where I am going to put together like a spell, or I'm going to put together something. I'm going to actually do some work on that altar. There's another type of altar, which you might say is more of a shrine. And that's where I'm going to put up maybe a picture of a deity. Like, let's say that I'm, a dedicant of Aphrodite and I want to have an Aphrodite shrine. So maybe I'll have like a little statue of Aphrodite, and I'll have, little pictures of roses, or, I'll have little anointing oil, little like rose scented oils, and maybe I'll have a little pink candle and a rose quartz or a little heart shaped something. And it's just a little altar that's an homage to Aphrodite and to love and to beauty. Maybe there's a little, hand mirror, little miniature hand mirror, Barbie hand mirror or something. Just little trinkets or little somethings on there that are representative of the deity that of Aphrodite, and of love and self-love, and letting go of judgment and embracing myself and all those sort of things, right? So I'd set that up as a little altar. I'm not necessarily going to do like a big working on there. Maybe it's one of those little corner shelves, those small little sconces or something. It could be anything, but this is sort of just one idea you might have. That might be called a shrine to Aphrodite, or a shrine to, and you could do this for any deity, right? You could do it to, some goth, dark goddess of, death and destruction. If you wanted Mama Kali, or Santa Muerte, or whoever, you might want to do it to, you could have a shrine to that deity. And maybe there is a place where you would leave offerings, or a place where you would light a candle, but it isn't thought of as a working altar, where you might then sort of, a working altar is where you might assemble a spell, or do your regular sort of work, if you were to do that.
Seems like you might need more space for that sort of thing.
Right. So when I
Yeah.
think about a working altar, one of the things that might be there is you would create a place where you would sort of focus your sacred space. It sort of centers your magical practice. And so some of the things that are on a lot of people's regular working altar are the representations of things like the elements. A lot of times the four elements are there: the element of earth, of air, of fire, and of water. Sometimes those are in directions of north, south, east, west. Sometimes they're not. They may also have representations of their ancestors. That might be on a separate altar. Some people have an ancestor altar that is very different, right? Some people include that on their working altar. Some people include the fairies, or the fae on their altar. Some people have a separate altar that's a fae shrine or a fae altar. Some people may have representations of deity on their altar. Maybe they have a specific deity to Aphrodite on an Aphrodite shrine, as per the previous example. But maybe they have general sort of like, this is the Lord and this is the lady on my altar, or the goddess or god, or maybe there's a non-gender specific, like the divine or spirit on their altar, right? So these are all sort of different things that you might have on your altar. And so the reason you would have all those things is if you wanted to have a focus of magical practice. And again, this is one example of sort of the Wiccan type of magical practice that you might do. There's
Sure.
lots of other ways to do it, but you would have the symbolisms of the different sort of magical tradition or magical practice on your altar, so that you could then create, ritual, or create magic, or do the things you wanted to do with the symbols and with the powerful, items that are there. Maybe you would also have some powerful crystals that are really important to you. Maybe you would have a power, statue or a symbol, or whatever the things are in your altar that are there, right? For money, or for luck, or for success, or for love, or whatever the things are. So
And I think
that's the idea of an
there's
altar.
a there's also, I think, a lot to be said about including handmade items as offerings. I mean, I know that's like kind of what the point is here for like the making and whatnot, but there's outside of like just knitting, there's a lot of handmade things that you can do as offerings. You can write poems, you can sing songs, you can just find like fresh flowers and herbs from outside, zero cost things that just show that you're thinking about them, again, putting energy towards it. I think the altar in general is more like a reminder to put the energy towards this or what you really want.
Yeah.
And then the deity is sort of like, or whatever, is then, just making it more specific as to what you want. So,
Right. You're speaking to something important, which is like, I think about like, here are the basics of what my altar is.
yeah.
And then how do you keep your altar fresh?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I mean, I've done a lot of research on this, and it seems, again, to be very personal. Some people were like, it has, like, if you include water, it has to be changed every day. One said once a week, one said twice a month. I'm like, okay, so I guess maybe whatever you feel is right. And then also maybe some common sense things. So I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point around offerings, and like having an offering bowl, or having a
Mm.
little dish or something. I love to find stuff. Again, I love how you said low cost. Go to a secondhand store, go to a thrift store,
Mm.
find really beautiful, little small, seemingly useless, like things that Japanese like appetizers are served in or something,
Ooh,
right? Those are
yeah.
really great little dishes. You'd be like, what the heck would you use that for? It's a great little offering dish for a few petals of a flower, a little bit of incense, maybe a little piece of sweet food or something that you would then change out, and you would switch it out, right? So I love those ideas is really great, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can keep it fresh. And yeah, put a vase, a really beautiful vase, and change out flowers that you find or that you pick wild, or that are, what are the flowers that are sacred to the deities you're
There
working
you
with?
go. Yep.
You said that, right?
Right. Yep. Or what's just fresh outside currently, having like the seasonal items can be really powerful.
Yeah,
Um,
is there a bough of cherry blossoms in March? Is
mm,
there some wild, right now in Seattle, there are wildflowers that are growing out there.
oh yeah,
That
like
certainly
crazy.
a few sprigs of lavender,
Mm,
it's fabulous, right? If you're not allergic.
yeah, there's like a million daisies out right now. It's
Yep.
so fun. And changing those things out before they go bad or as they're about to go bad is really important.
Mhm.
I read somewhere that said changing your offerings should be considered like, if you had a guest over, like, would you serve them like dirty old water? Like, would you want them to see gross flowers? Like, would you want them to eat off of like the gross table you haven't wiped off? You
Right.
might want to put a little tablecloth on there. It's just kind. It's just respectful. It's just polite.
It's also it's to yourself, right? You're
Mm,
working with and knowing that you're keeping it fresh. So it's exactly right. And if you're working with ancestors,
mm,
this is really important. Is a lot of ancestors love a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of like a little, we have little tiny, like, and this is again at Goodwill, we
mm.
found these little tiny miniature crystal, super cheap crystal, like wine glasses.
Ooh.
And so you can put those in front of, like, Aunt Jackie, and put a little whiskey in there, because, in life she really loved that, right? It
Yes.
does kind of evaporate, and we are like, oh, Aunt Jackie's sipping on her whiskey, right?
Oh, okay.
It's really amazing. And so keeping that stuff fresh is really an important way to honor the ancestors and
Mm,
to leave those out. So yeah, what do you do with items? So you have this little piece of pastry that you put out as an offering, right?
mm-hmm.
A little sweet treat, because you were working with Ganesh, and Ganesh loves the sweets, right? So you
Mm.
put a little sweet treat because you're working with a deity that likes sweets, and it's all dried out now, and you're ready to clear the altar, and you're like, do I just throw it in the trash? Seems weird. What do
Yeah.
you do with it? You had an idea for that.
Um, well, you actually gave me the original idea, and that was the burn box.
Yes.
Yes, that's huge. So it's I mean, it could be a box, I suppose, but you had said you use like an old grocery paper bag, and that's genius.
Can.
Again, great
Yeah.
way to repurpose something. Um,
Paper bags can lose the bottom if it's anything that's wet in there. So you can also decorate a shoebox, or one of those boxes that you just recycled. You
mm,
you, the person listening, you
yes,
just recycled an Amazon box. I know it. I know you did.
it's
I
like a
because
low key
I've
read.
been because I've been watching you in your
That's
order
right.
history. I'm kidding.
You
I'm
have something
kidding.
arriving today, in
Yeah.
fact.
Kidding, not kidding. So yeah, we are recycling these Amazon boxes. There's one that's a perfect size as a burn box. And what I like to do is use that, like some wrapping paper or some crafting supplies. Because if you're
Mm.
listening to this podcast, you have crafting supplies that
Oh,
are
right.
collecting dust in your house right now. So you can decorate that box. Make
There you
it
go.
cool, make it special, make it pretty, so you can burn it
Yeah, I
later.
love that.
It's really fun. And then you'll remember, like, oh, it's a small box. Make it small. It's fine.
Mm.
Right. And you can put those little bits of whatever. You can put, uh, you know, spell remains. You can put anything in your beautiful burn box. Right. And
Yeah.
then once or twice a year, when you're at a moon, when it's a full moon, when it's summer solstice, when it's winter solstice, whenever it is, you can have a little bonfire or campfire or whatever at the beach or out, whatever, and you can take your burn box and you know say a little, like, thank you to the deities for all of the things this year, and place it on your fire, and whoosh.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah. That's perfect. Um, So what about liquids? Now, I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not. But before I did any reading, I was like, what do I do with this? And I thought, I'm just gonna put it in this plant. So I put it in my plant and it's fine, but I was like, maybe I
What?
shouldn't have put like a wine offering, old wine offering in my my plant. So
Okay,
what
so
do you
when I have a wine offering, I then take it. So we have a Fey shrine outside.
do?
So we have a
Outside,
shrine
yeah.
to the fairies outside.
Hmm.
So whenever we have a food or drink offering, we then take it outside to the fairies. And so then
Oh,
it disappears to the fairies, right?
okay.
And that is how we, especially for wine, how that ends up being like offered to the fae.
Hmm.
And so if it's an offering to the ancestors, it also evaporates, right? But
Smaller
if
amounts,
it's
maybe, is what you're saying I should use.
right, if it's water for the ancestors, for sure you can put that in a plant,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a plant that is an ancestor plant. And there's not
Oh.
a particular plant that's an ancestor plant, right? But if you have like, let's say you have a jade plant or you have a spider plant or you have something that you're like, you know
Mm.
what, this is going to be my plant that's in honor of the ancestors, that would be a great thing to have next to your ancestor altar. You
Hmm.
take that water, don't use water that you put bluing in. So here's the thing, some people color the water blue for the
Oh.
ancestors with bluing that you use to make whites whiter, and it's a dye. It's a dye
Oh.
that you use in the wash, especially in the South, to make whites. You takes the yellow out of the
Oh,
whites.
okay. Oh,
If
makes
that,
whites brighter kind of a thing.
yeah,
Okay.
not
Mm-hmm.
recommended to water plants with. But if we use a blue glass, so we use blue glass and put pure water in a blue glass for the ancestor altar. So if you do that, then you can use that water and water a plant. And it really is cool to have a
Smart.
plant that's watered with ancestor water because it really brings an energy into that plant.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
neat.
that idea
Yeah,
and am going to be using it.
that's way cool. Yeah.
Great idea. Oh gosh. Okay.
So I think about like, what would it be like to make your work table in your craft room? Like, can you imagine doing anything to your work table, like to make it magical? Or do you do anything to your work table to make it magical?
I've only just recently started incorporating things, and one of them I actually was just inspired by another person in our sort of realm. That was Pamela Unicorn.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love her. Love her.
she knows everything about crystals. Know they're pretty, and would like to learn more. And she was saying, just talking about how they communicate with her and how she uses them like in her normal work. She put like a citrine tower on her laptop, and that like helped her business and everything. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I have some crystals. I'm gonna like bring them from my bedroom into the office. So I actually do have a couple of crystals that I now keep in the office, and I've been using on various things to good results so far. So I look forward to incorporating more soon. And I do have
Yeah.
candles for concentration. So
Mm,
that's just a couple of ways.
I
But
love that.
I'm looking forward to doing more, especially, the more I'm learning. So
Yeah. I think that if you have a work surface like you can paint a sigil or a symbol on your work surface, or
ah.
under on the underside of your work surface where no one sees it, you can take a marker and you can paint, or actually
Ooh.
paint a sigil or a symbol on that to sort of energize your work surface. Certainly crystals. Hello, who doesn't like
Hmm.
crystals? You can put inspirational things where you can see them. If you're working a pattern, um, you know, I don't know. I wonder if there's something about like, I don't know what there could be. Oh, go ahead.
Actually, so someone recently had just suggested using, crystals again, but as stitch markers. So that would be another way to incorporate
Ooh,
while you're knitting, especially if you're knitting, at your craft table.
yeah.
So yeah, if you had like a certain stone that you wanted to concentrate for a certain intent, that could certainly be worked in too, especially if you are handy with stones, or probably there's some cool
Yeah.
people on Etsy.
Like if there's little beads, if you can string a bead that's a
Mm,
crystal onto your stitch markers, that would be way cool.
yeah.
I think about an altar is a lot about aesthetics. because the aesthetics matter because we're trying to activate the imagination. So if you think about your work table, your crafting table, and start to think about the aesthetics of it, are you doing yourself a favor by helping with the aesthetics of your workspace, whether it be magical or craft? That is a step forward,
Yeah.
right? So I think that that's something to consider in this
Yep.
arena.
The more intention you put into it, the
Mhm.
more you'll enjoy the space.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of go between phases of wanting it super clean, probably when a project has just finished, to then it's just littered with the current work in progress, which
for
again,
sure.
even having like the active items are very inspiring and part of the aesthetic at that point. So,
Mhm.
as someone who always likes to see things sort of move and change, I like kind of the flow of that
Yeah.
workspace environment. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk about some knitting related deities I found. How about that? All
Yes.
right, we'll be right back. Hey, magical makers! Are you looking for a fun summertime project? Try my no sweat mason cozies, now available in 2 different sizes. You can save 50% on this pattern through July 31st by using the code KNITASPELL, that's all one word, on Ravelry at checkout. These beverage covers not only keep your hands dry, they're also a fun way to identify whose drink belongs to who. Cheers! Hey, Jim, let's talk about a palm reading for a sec.
Oh, yeah, my favorite topic.
So I don't think a lot of people necessarily think of getting a palm reading, but my palm reading with you was awesome, and it actually helped with a lot of preconceived notions that I had of the craft before now.
Oh, you had preconceived notions about palmistry? What were they?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty literal, so I thought having a short lifeline might mean you have a short life, or that a
Right.
star on your palm is bad.
Oh, that's interesting. Both of those are common. A short lifeline does not mean a short life. It actually means a life of connection with the divine and learning and creating type of life. And a star in your palm is a sign of spiritual gift. Those are two things that are dispelled right away. I know there's a lot of things on the palm that people
Yeah,
think are good or bad, right? There's nothing inherently negative in your palm. You can use all the tools, all the markings. They are associated with your strengths, your personality, and things you can use in your life.
absolutely. I really love that modern take on palmistry, and it actually really resonated in my reading. I think everyone would enjoy a reading from you. And, dear listener, if you too would like a fantastic experience that offers insight, direction, and clarity, I highly suggest booking a session with my dear friend James Devine, and you can find more information at thedivinedhand.com. And we're back. So
Yay.
let's talk about some knitting and crafting related deities that I found. Now, just to say, I found this on a website called Writing Femme, and this person has so much information about how you can put knitting into your magical practices and vice versa that I highly recommend checking them out.
Maybe they need to be a guest.
Maybe. I actually will put the link to the article that I found in our show notes so that you can check it out more. We're just going to sort of touch on it briefly here, but I think there's going to be maybe even an opportunity for another episode where we can get into this more deeply. So,
Awesome.
so, right off when we were talking about this, I was thinking, there's got to be some deities or something that would be related to knitting, crafting, or etc. And
Right.
the
And
first,
when we think about the relationship between deities and altars,
mm,
obviously this is like you can create a shrine or you can use deities and have a shrine or have a deity on your work table, on your altar that's
mm-hmm,
sort of visible, when you're working, right? And
right.
so what if we're going to create an altar, if we're going to create a shrine, if we're going to do work and have homage to a deity, well, obviously, the next sort of question is like, well, which deities might those be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the research, this is that connection between our episode on altars, and then it sort of parlays into sort of deities. Sorry, I was just wanted to make that connection.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, and having, like you said, like, a shelf in your workspace or a cubby or anything dedicated space has a
Temporarily set it
reminder.
up right in front of you as you're knitting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, there's no reason it has to be a permanent thing.
Yeah,
You even had
this is my Aphrodite scarf that I'm knitting for someone.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Even if you had like a little travel altar or whatever, you could pull that in
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So some people that you might want to rope in. Initially, I thought of the fates, spinning it, measuring it, and then cutting of the thread.
Right.
Um,
So the three fates come from ancient Greece,
hmm,
and there's one that spins, one that measures, and one that cuts. Even the gods themselves are subject to the fates. So that's a great. So we're talking about deities that are actually aiding the crafter, aiding the knitter, as
mm-hmm.
opposed to deities you might invoke for the project you're doing. So you might want to knit the Aphrodite scarf and then invoke or work with Aphrodite. But we're talking about who's helping you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who can help you knit, right? And
Exactly.
so the fates is one thing to think about, like you're spinning, measuring, and cutting. Yeah, I love that.
Right. Yep. They could
Okay.
be used to offer wisdom and clarity. So
Mhm.
that would be great, especially if you're working on like a tough project, or
Yeah,
maybe a weaving project, again, or a spinning project. Also, it's
it's
a
very
great
cool.
reminder to measure twice before you cut. Just saying. I also have, oh, I'm going to just
Oh, do you
totally
want me to pronounce
butcher
it?
these names. Yes, please.
I think I see arachne.
Arachne, yes. I was like, I know that one, but I can't. Yeah, so
Yeah.
expert weaver and faced Athena in a weaving competition, and she won. And this particular deity was maybe spitefully turned into a spider to live out
Yes.
then their weaving dreams.
Yeah,
Uh,
so this is where we get the word for spider, which is
mm.
and the whole spider family of arachnids,
Ah,
right?
there you go.
Comes from that ancient Greek word arachne, which is this, woman, this weaver that was turned into a spider. And so all the spider deities sort of come from that. And so yeah, obviously the spinner, and we see, in fact, and I don't think we've mentioned it before, but there's an amazing orb weaver spider in Africa, I think in Ethiopia, that spins this amazing yellow
Mm.
spider silk that has been used to create a one-off art piece of amazing woven, spider silk piece that's currently at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is their art museum. And yeah, it's I encourage you to Google the spider silk tapestry at the Art Institute of Chicago. It's worth looking at and watching the video on.
Oh, yeah. And a little research will reveal that it's super lightweight and made from like a zillion threads. So it's
And
really impressive.
it will stick to the wall all by itself because
Yeah.
it's
If you've ever
tacky.
worked with like silk roving, anybody out there, I feel like it would be similar to that in its like light, super light, sticky on every one of your little skin crevices kind of a thing. Just light and sticky. Um, so Arachne would be great for invoking like inspiration, new beginnings, and of course precision. So if you were doing maybe like a big lace shawl or something like that, that might be a great person to invoke. And then also if you're a weaver, that would be great as well. And then we have our Minoan moon goddess. Oh boy, you want to help me out with that one?
Ariadne.
Ariadne, there we go. Um,
Yes.
gave Theseus, I believe,
Yep.
the
Theseus.
the ball of yarn that stopped him from getting lost in the Minotaur's labyrinth. So this is where yarn comes in. Heyo. Um, so if you need someone to open up roadblocks or confusion or new paths or just new ideas, this would be another great opportunity. And then, of course, Athena herself,
Right.
patron of the arts and crafts, a weaver, of course, also invokes skill, detail, wisdom, beauty, blessings, even at the start of a project. So lots of opportunities to invoke her for sure. Last but not least, oh,
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus. I was really like, I can remember this one, but
Yeah.
nope.
And the
This
Roman equivalent is Vulcan.
that's right.
Yes.
So this was the god of blacksmithing and crafts, better known for metalworking and weapons. He's very multi-talented. He wove the magic net that caught Aphrodite and her lover Ares in a compromising position. It was so well made that they couldn't even escape. Not even the gods. I mean, he was a god too, so, you know. So these are strong fibers held with knots, and so this particular deity could be invoked for things like, you know, just having your tools be involved, or aiding in new skills, and certainly anything netted would be great. So,
Yeah.
or security. There's even someone said out there that they could be invoked to aid in a lover's being in compromising positions, of course. So
Yeah,
just a
it's
few
kind of
examples.
cool. I think that's really cool to think about, like, who are the deities. Now, a lot of these, except for the Minoan, but even that, these are very Western deities, right? And
Mm,
so I'm sure that there's also Eastern deities, right?
sure.
Japanese and Chinese and Indian deities and certainly African deities.
Mm,
The whole continent of Africa, I'm sure there's many deities that would represent and be patrons of weaving and of crafts. So that would be a really great thing to also look at something else that is beyond the Greek sort of pantheon. And who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's Celtic deities as well. So
oh,
this is
for
just a
sure.
quick little snapshot of, the Greek
Mm,
and Roman focus with a little bit of the Minoan, but that's also from that arena. So just to know that we're just taking a little slice of that Western,
indeed.
cultural sort of snapshot. And I would love, as we go along, to look at how sort of deities have been sponsors of, and how ancient myth in weaving, knitting, fiber arts, crafting, with other deities from around the world, because we can be inspired by ancient cultures and the human beings drive to make things. I mean, this is one of the cool things about human beings. Human beings have made things from the beginning. It's
Mm,
one of the defining features of being human, right? We've always made things, right? Whether we're making, rockets, or whether we're making stone huts, right? We've
yep.
always made things, and innovation is such a beautiful thing. We
Yep.
love it, right? So it's
Physical
magical.
manifestation machines.
That's right. That's right. So it's very, very cool. So an altar as a focus, as a focal point, is really key. And how you make it that you're remember, and we keep reiterating this. I keep reiterating this. Your altar, your craft table, is can serve to help focus your imagination. It can serve to crystallize your vision and
Mm,
to inspire you. And so, to the level at which it does that, that is within your power. That is the way for you to activate your will and your desire and your emotions. So
mm,
I encourage you to use your power and to make your space inspiring, and to make it exactly as you wish. Spend the time almost like you're putting yourself in your space in a little bit of day spa,
yes.
and make it cute and make it beautiful, and like spend the time to put things away and make things nice and organize something, even if it's I have too many things to do. For me, I have too many things to do. I have to do this, I have to do that. I don't have time to do that. I don't feel like it.
Hmm.
Spend a little time to give your work surface a little facial, and make it
Yes.
make it nice.
And if at least with me, when you get that feeling of like, but I have to do this, but I have to do this, it's usually because the workspace is too cluttered. Yeah,
uh,
you too. It's ringing
you're
true.
calling me out like
I mean, just from personal
that.
experience, what can I say? Yeah, because when you see, oh, yep, there's that unfinished project that I haven't even cast on yet. Oh, there's that one that's half done. Well, I have to block this one still. Oh, this one still needs seaming. Suddenly you're like, I have to leave this space.
Hmm.
So yeah, making it really inviting so you want to go into it every day, because I think that's
Yes.
really important, is also, utilizing it every day. Um, and so here's a little question for you. I kind of asked or kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, but let's say, we're going on vacation. Um, what might be some way that you could bring like a travel altar with you, and what is that exactly to you?
Yeah, that's a fabulous thing. So if you are um, engaged in, you want to do daily, or regular, devotions or
Mm.
regular work, and you want to do a travel altar, one of the coolest things is get an Altoids tin or something like that.
Mm.
Um, it is really fun to do a pocket shrine,
Ooh,
right?
pocket shrine.
So pocket shrines are really fun to make, and be creative. Make a little collage in there. Make a little secret like picture, a little diorama of the deity or of whatever you're working with. You can also make a pocket altar. Again, you can use a tin or anything,
Mm.
and inside there can be a representation of whatever, a little miniature, teeny tiny miniature representation of whatever is on your altar, right? So
Mm.
on my altar are the four elements, the deity, the god and goddess, and the fae. So I would have maybe the four elements and the two deities and the little fae, and then I might have a little stick in there as a wand that I can take out, right?
Mm.
And maybe I would have a little vial, a little mini sampler of an oil, right, to have a
Mm.
scent. Maybe I would have one little birthday candle to light, for a minute or something.
Great idea.
Maybe on the lid, I would have put glued a little piece of fabric with a little like, and then maybe with glitter glue, put a little star, a little
Mm.
pentagram or something, and
Yeah.
I would use that as like my little altar. I don't know. I would like figure out like what would work or something, and I would open up that little Altoid stand, and I would hold it and like do a little ritual and have a little devotion, and then I would like snuff out the candle. I would blow it out. I'd snuff it out, put it all back in there, close it, put it back in my pocket, and maybe even the outside would still say Altoids on it, so nobody has to. Nobody's gonna
Ooh.
know.
Ooh,
Nobody's gonna know,
nice.
right?
Or maybe you could knit like a little cozy for it, so it'll be
Ooh,
protected and wrapped
yes.
up in a certain color, or maybe it's got something on that. Ooh, I love it.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
this is an idea for a little travel altar, right? And of
Great.
course, you could do it in any kind of little box or whatever you want. So you'll see those out there. But that's one way to take it on the road, right? If you want a little devotional, like let's say I'm doing devotions. Again, I've used Aphrodite as an example all day, right? So let's say I want a little devotional to Aphrodite, then I would have my little Aphrodite shrine. I'd open it up and I'd do my meditation to Aphrodite, and I would do my little, maybe I have a little chant, or maybe I have a little thing that I'm doing, and I would open it up and I would look at the images inside and I would meditate. I would do my, prayers or my poetry, and then I would, say my gratitudes, and then I would close it. And maybe in there I would again have a little candle and I would light it and then snuff it out and put it away and, put it back in my bag, put it
Hmm.
back in my Aphrodite cozy that I had knitted, and
There you
then put it
go.
back in my bag. Yeah. So
Huh.
something like that. So there's different things that you could do, right?
Yeah,
If
I
I
love
was
that.
doing ancestor work, then I would have that picture of
Hmm.
that person, right?
Sure.
And I would like set up that picture, light the little candle, say whatever. So this is
Oh.
what I could imagine. What
Yeah.
do you have an idea? What would you do?
Actually, I was just thinking, like so there was this woman that I used to work with. Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry. At the yarn store. She passed a
Oh,
while ago.
that's sweet.
Um,
Oh,
I know. I love you,
it's the
Patty Lewis. I
sweetest.
still miss you. Anyway, and I was
I
like,
love it when it gets real. I love it when our
oh,
podcast
so
gets
real.
real.
Um, I was like, oh, she was one of my favorite knitting friends. I could like make a little travel altar just to have her around.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, and this is one of your knitting ancestors,
Exactly. Yep.
right? And when I say ancestors, it's a little bit in quotes, right?
Hmm.
But this is a person who is like your knitting legacy, or your knitting, like she had an impact on you and your knitting. You probably learned things from her,
Totally.
right?
Yep.
She probably was one of your knitting mentors or one of your, she could have a place on your knitting, sort of on an ancestor altar for you, where you could have a little picture of her, and that's the sweetest thing to honor her that way,
Oh,
right?
I love that. Yeah, I'm absolutely going to do that this very week. Clearly, I'm having an emotional response. I should do something about it.
I love it. I love it when tears come and you're
Oh,
just so moved by someone
me
so
too. Well,
sweet.
it's cancer season. What are you going to do?
Oh, that's right. When we're recording this, which is in June, right when Mercury went direct, and it's now Cancer season, and we're feeling our emotions. Thank goodness.
That's right. I'm fine with it. That's right.
I
She
can
was so
tell by
awesome.
your
She
tone of
deserves the
voice.
tears. Yes.
I'm fine with it.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's sweet.
So anyway,
Well,
so there's an idea
fabulous.
of what I would
Yes.
do. Yeah.
Well, I want to know what your ideas are, listener. Dear listener, I want to know what your ideas are. So people have been sending us the sweetest emails.
Yes.
And, sometimes you feel like you're just kind of talking to the air. I mean, not really. I
We're
feel like
talking
I'm
to each other at least.
Definitely I'm talking to Katie. But don't you sometimes, Katie, feel like, is anyone listening? Tap, tap, tap. Is this thing on?
That's right. Yep. A little bit.
We're getting emails from people, and it means the world when you are listening and you send a quick little note that just says, hey, I listened, and that episode was stupid. I mean, that episode was amazing. Either way, I'll take negative.
Constructive feedback is also welcome.
Yeah, or positive attention.
Yeah.
So I love the email that we got this week. It was so fantastic. It really moved me. I was like, oh my gosh, people are like, it made a difference for someone. So I want to know, what do you do for your traveling altar? Do you set up an altar? What would you add to this episode? I would love to know. So we're working on figuring out how to post people's comments and, have those up there. So I'd love to have you be part of that, and drop us a line. Leave us a review. One of the easiest ways, everyone reads your reviews so if you want to be part of the conversation, one of the easiest ways to be visible, write a review about the episode and about the podcast itself, or drop us an email. I'd love to hear from you.
Yep, you can do so at knittaspellpodcast@gmail.com, and you can also drop us a message on our Instagram, which is knittaspell. Go figure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really want you to knit something cool, and you can find something cool to knit at Light from Lantern on Instagram, or you can go to lightfromlantern.com, and Katie has some cool stuff to knit. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, there will be a little cozy. There is already a cozy for your beer.
That's true.
And you could probably modify it very easily into a cozy for your pocket shrine. But she'll have cool stuff for you to knit by the time this comes out, even stuff that she already has is cool. So check it out at lightfromlantern.com.
For all your palmistry needs, you should definitely check out more about Jim, and you can do so at thedivinehand.com, or you can find him on Instagram at divinehandjim. He actually just finished promoting a upcoming palmistry class, so snooze you lose right now. However, I do have it on good authority that it could be offered again, so you should definitely sign up for his newsletter, which you can find at thedivinehand.com. To learn more and be the first to know. And I also heard that his newsletter subscribers get a sweet discount. So
it is true. You're telling all these truths about me.
I'm just pouring it out like an open book. That's right. They need to know. So awesome. Well, Jim, as always, I really appreciate your expertise, and this was a great time. I can't wait for next week.
So fun. I can't wait till next week either. I love hanging out with you.
Ditto. All right. Well, listeners, thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
So long.
This episode is a wrap. If you enjoyed what you heard, go ahead and follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app. And don't forget, you can see full video episodes of Knit a Spell on Light from Lantern's YouTube channel.